Welcome to this quick demonstration of Kiosk mode using FormMaker. And there's two sides of Kiosk mode. There's the operating system side, the iOS side, and there's the side within FormMaker itself. So with the operating system you can lock the iPad or iPhone down to running a single app, and that's often just termed Kiosk mode in itself. And then within FormMaker, you can also lock FormMaker down to stop users designing or going into design mode or going in to see the results. So that's locking down FormMaker itself. So for locking down the iPad, so going into basic kiosk mode on iOS, there's two ways of doing it. One's called guided access and the other one's called single app mode. Guided access is the easier one to set up. And I was just Googling it. There's plenty of information out there. It changes slightly with different releases of iOS. So Google's probably the best place to start looking. And it's just the iOS, it's an iOS utility. And it's not anything to do with FormMaker as such. It's just something you can do with the operating system. The other mode, single app mode, you need a tool to use. It's a bit more secure than guided access. And you need something called the Apple configurator to help you set up single app mode. But guided access may well be enough for you. So that's the iOS side. Within FormMaker, obviously we may want to stop general users, if they're just using an iPad in kiosk mode, from going into design mode and fiddling around with form designs, or going into results and seeing other people's results. So we can do that at the top level. If we just go into the settings at the top level, and we can say run only, yes, and that means only allow people to run forms but not design them, and hide results, yes. And that means that people can't see the results. And to stop people going back into these settings and changing them, we can set up a little password. So we go A, B, C, D, E, for example, like that. And there we are. If we try and go back into settings here, it won't let us unless we type in that password. And then we can see that our forms, well, we're limited to just my forms, so that's your own forms there, which currently we don't have any. So if I go back in here and go A, B, C, D, E, I can then change this to not run only, which means I can get back to my main menu. And I'll start off just by taking a clone of the sales lead form, and it's called sales lead copy. And now on the main menu, in all forms, of course, we've got everything. But in my forms, we just have that one form that we've set up that we can design. The other ones are read-only and they come with the app. So now if I go back in here and switch this on, there we are. There we go, we're back into here, and I can't then go back in without entering the password. And that means a user can come in here and they'll only see what's in my forms, and they'll only see this form, which is the one I just created. And I can run that form, and there we go, add some data as a user would. And when it finishes, obviously it clears the form. The next person comes along, and Bob's your uncle. They can enter their data too. And obviously a user can come out of that form and come back to here, but all they can see is the form name, and they can only run it. So it's pretty secure. If you wanted it so that a user could never come into these menus at all, they only saw the form itself, well, you can do that. You can do that with a form level setting. So if I go back into here and switch this off to allow me into design mode, there we are. If I go into the settings for this sales lead copy form into design mode, sorry, not in there, in the settings for the form, I can then say allow exit hard, which means that it would warn them before exiting the form, or kiosk, which means they can't exit the form at all. Now, this is kind of it's quite a heavy thing to use, this one, because it'll stop me leaving the form, which means I have to kill the app, to kill the running app when I want to come in and have a look at the results. So if I go back into here, back into settings, and say I'm just going to run, now when I go in, there's no way for me to escape from this form, which means this might be exactly what you want. The users can come along, enter their information, but I have no way of actually getting out of this form. And that's great because it'll stop people messing around. And as long as you set up the app to running in guided access mode, so that's kiosk mode effectively, or single app mode, the very secure kiosk mode, then a user can only do this and they won't be able to do anything else. And so it'll be locked down in true kiosk mode. So that's the main features. Obviously, when I come back later, pick up the iPad at the end of the day, I want to see the results. So at that point, I would then do the old double click on the button, swoosh the app off the top, and that would kill the app running. And then I could go back in and change those settings and then see the results. So that's kiosk mode in FormMaker, and that's about all there is to it.